right, chapter 21 of Wish. Let's do this. I spent the next few days watching Jackie flit around Colby like she lived there her whole life. She talked about high school football with the mailman and took cold fried chicken to Bertha's knitting club. She set up a vegetable stand at the end of the driveway and chatted with everyone who stopped by to buy beans and squash, telling them about Raleigh and her waitressing job and her new driver's license, and the thrift store in Fairview, as I watched her laughing with the owner about a big, ugly hat somebody brought in. I felt like I was, seeing her for the first time. Maybe this was the new Jackie. How come I had never noticed how much everybody loved her? Even Bertha's cats couldn't get enough of her, rubbing their heads against her legs and purring in her lap. Every one of the Odom boys was red-faced and tongue-tied around her, falling all over her to open the car door for her or bring her cold lemonade every time we went over there. I can't believe you know how to rebuild an engine, she said to Burl the first day we visited. And the next thing you know, she was out there in the driveway squinting down at a carburetor or something like that, or something like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. Every now and then she flipped her hair over her shoulder, and I thought Burl was going to melt into a puddle right there in the gravel driveway. Mrs. Odom brought powdered sugar donuts out on the porch, and we sat around and listened to Jackie tell Waffle House stories. And one time, she said, this old lady came in a limo driven by a chauffeur. She brushed powdered sugar off of her lap. Can you imagine going to the Waffle House in a chauffeur-driven limo? Everybody agreed they couldn't imagine that, but she left me a $21 tip for a $4 waffle. So I'm not complaining, Jackie said. Howard and Dwight bugged their eyes out and said, "Wow." She told us how she and the other waitresses called it the Awful House, and those boys all hooted and hollered like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Then she told everybody about Raleigh, how it is big and how all the malls and tanning salons and even an indoor miniature golf course. Y'all should come visit sometime, she said. I have my driver's license and Carol Lee has a car. They grinned and nodded and said how much they'd like to go to Raleigh and I felt jealousy poking at me so hard it made me squirm as I sat there on the porch steps. Late that afternoon, me and Howard took Jackie down to the creek with Wishbone, and she didn't waste a minute taking off her shoes and wading into the cold mountain water. Her laughter echoing through the trees, she answered all Howard's nosy questions with a single eye roll and acted like she hung out with up-down boys every day of her life. What's it like when you visit your daddy in jail? He said. I'd like to die. I like to die. When he asked, but Jackie wasn't one bit bothered. Not as cool as it looks on TV. I can tell you that, she said. Well, you just sit at a table and talk about school and stuff. He tells me how bad the food is there and how the first thing he's going to do when he gets out is go eat about 14 hamburgers. I wanted to ask her if they ever talked about me, but I was scared the answer would be no, and I would look like a loser in front of Howard. I started to remind him that Scrappy is in a correctional facility, not a jail, but he and Jackie had already moved on to talking about Bible detective at Sunday school. I bet Charlie's terrible at that game, she said, giving me a poke. Reading the Bible is not exactly a popular activity around or at our house, right, Charlie? She poked me again. That night, Mrs. Odom invited me and Jackie to have supper with them. Burl and Lenny brought aluminum lawn chairs in from the yard for us and nearly knocked each other over trying to sit next to Jackie. She helped Mrs. Odom put plates of ham and bowls of coleslaw and baked beans on the table, and didn't even blink an eye when everyone held hands and Dwight said the blessing and thanked the Lord for the baked beans and new friends. I swear, I felt invisible while everybody jibber-jabbered at the table. Jackie told them about a majorette. Jackie told them about being a majorette in 10th grade and marching in the Memorial Day parade in the rain. Talk about a bad hair day, she said to everyone, and everyone laughed. Then she asked Mrs. Odom asked Mr. Odom about his job driving a lumber truck. When he described driving from Colby to Charlotte to Greenville and everywhere in between, she said it must be so fun to go to all those different places. Then she went on to tell him about her friend Loretta, who worked the night shift at a truck stop on the interstate, and oh boy, did she have some stories to tell about some of those truckers. Mr. Odom blushed a little at that, and Mrs. Odom jumped real quick to tell us about Howard being the Bible detective champion at church. No way, Jackie said. He didn't tell me that. And then it was Howard's turn to blush. Wishbone laid on the floor next to Cotton because he knew there would be food down there before long. Sure enough, he gobbled up a couple of pieces of ham and some cornbread crumbs, and Jackie said, "Wishbone, stop that." But Mrs. Odom said, "That's okay. Shoot, he helps me keep the floor clean." Jackie laughed her sparkly laugh, and in that very minute, I wanted to be her. I wanted her easy way of making people love her. I wanted her knack for seeing the good in things. I even wanted her shiny black hair with blue streaks. But no matter how bad I wanted it, I was still going to be just plain old me.